Time now to talk about Oxfam, the major charity's inclusive language guide, a new 92-page pamphlet, booklet, report, warning against various phrases like headquarters, local, people, mother, father, children, you name it. They want to ban it because they're all English words, and according to the Oxfam, English is the language of colonialisation, of colonial control, and therefore it must be stopped. We are a colonialising nation, and therefore our language must be curtailed. Unbelievable. Let's talk to former Brexit Party MEP and a man of profound common sense, Ben Habib. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Kevin. Good to see you.
Now, one of the things you can't say anymore, for example, there are so many mad examples of this. You can't say, you know, we stand with Ukraine, because that's offensive to people who can't stand. You can't say mother. You can't say father, you can't say children, you can't say headquarters, you can't say people, you can't say spokesperson anymore, you have to say lead human. This is absolute insanity, isn't it?
It is insane, you know, and it's a sort of prima facie cursory glance. You might just roll your eyes and think, what a load of nonsense, and move on. But actually, it's more insidious than that, I think, Kevin. This is part of a much bigger attack on the United Kingdom. It's an attack on our language. It's an attack on our heritage. Ultimately, it's an attack on our values and our self-confidence. You know, this notion that we've got to decolonize the way that we speak and the way that we educate and the way that we publish books and so on. The presumption underlying all of that, and this is how they prevail in their nefarious aims, the presumption underlying all of it, which people don't seem to question, is that British colonial history is automatically something to be ashamed of. And in effectively getting us to concede that, almost without a debate, they're then able to attack our heritage. Once they're able to attack our heritage, they attack your values. And once they start attacking your values, you lose self-confidence as a nation. So, you know, prima facie, you can look at the Oxfam 92-page pamphlet and just say it's a load of garbage. But actually, it's much, much more serious than that. And Oxfam's not alone in mounting this attack on the United Kingdom. We're getting it from all directions, BLM, of course, being a recently very good one, people wishing to tear our statues down. You know, it's all part of that attack on British values, heritage, culture, and ultimately our self-confidence as a nation. And it should be rejected.
Yeah, and it's quite literally Orwellian, isn't it? The principle of control the language and you control the people. In 1984, hate is love, war is peace, etc. And if you get people to adhere to this nonsense, first of all, it will dramatically reduce a beautiful language, English. And secondly, it will reduce the ability of people to communicate with each other meaningfully. You know, and also, thirdly, Ben, I would say this nonsense is always incredibly sexist. You can't say mother, you know, because, you know, you should say, you know, person with cervix or pregnant person, etc., etc. It's a sort of cancellation of women, which I find strange.
I mean,
it's
a really interesting observation, that, because if you think about, you know, the emancipation of women and the 80-year fight that women had to become recognized and gain the equal rights that they now have in society, no sooner had they achieved that than these people are dehumanizing women. I mean, it's really insidious. And the whole promotion, for example, we're slightly digressing, but it's exactly the same thing. The whole promotion of transgender identity at the expense, if necessary, of women is part of this thing. And it is awful. And just on language, while we're on transgender and language, you know, we refer to a man who's transgendered to be into what he believes to be a woman as a transgender woman. Even that is wrong. He's not a transgender woman. He is a transgender man. He's still a man. He may have transgendered, but he's a transgender man. And it's the way that they do this that defeats us even before we engage in debate, because they've undermined the language, as you say.
I don't mind it, you know, if the name for, you know, a former male who transitions to, you know, as gender female, if the name for that is a trans woman, fine, call them a trans woman, but don't call them. Don't call them a woman. Don't call them a woman. Is the point? They're not a woman.
Well, they're a man who's trans. They're a man who has transgendered. So I see that as a transgender.
I can see you're a fundamentalist on this, Ben, an absolutist. But here's another aspect of this. I would urge people, next time you're thinking of donating money to Oxfam, remember, this is the sort of thing they spend your money on, a 92-page document to reduce the language you're allowed to use, to tell the staff what they can and cannot say. This business, first of all, a charity shouldn't be wasting its money on that. But this business of trying to tell people what they can and cannot say has to stop, doesn't it?
It's awful. And it's nothing to do with inclusion. This is inculcation of division. That's what it's doing. And, you know, Oxfam ought to know better. Oxfam is a product of British colonial past. You know, 1942, 21 charities coming together to create this global attempt to eliminate famine. I mean, what could be... There were so many good things that came out of our colonial past. Oxfam's one of them. So how dare Oxfam start attacking its very creator? I mean, I can't say that, you know, British imperial history was a direct cause of Oxfam, but it was born out of British imperial past. And therefore, it is part of it. And it must not presume that it can now ride morally above that past, of which actually we should all be proud and not ashamed. No, I find the whole thing very, very offensive. It's nothing to do with inclusion. It's to do with inculcating division. It's to do with making the British people lose self-confidence, lose a belief in their values, our heritage. And it's, you know, there are multiple attacks like this across the board on the United Kingdom. And one of them, I'm going to digress slightly, but it's, you know, as you know, Kevin, I'm fighting for Northern Ireland to be brought back into the United Kingdom. That's the same battle. You know, I'm fighting to reclaim a sense of sovereignty in this country, a sense of patriotism, a sense of belief that the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland is something that has to be maintained. And yet people say, oh my goodness, you're just hooked on this stupid old colloquial sense of sovereignty. Get over it. This is 2023. We can have pool sovereignty. We can all work together in some kumbaya way. But ultimately, what they're trying to do is undermine the United Kingdom. And that's what this attack on our language is. It's an undermining of the United Kingdom. And it has to be resisted.
I'll leave you with one of the more egregious examples from this nonsense. Avoid the word deaf. The word deaf this is why you should avoid it, Ben. The word deaf describes anyone who has a severe hearing problem. Thank you. Sometimes deaf is capitalised to refer to people who have been deaf their whole lives and who use sign language as a first language. I don't even understand that. And then it says what you should use instead is people with hearing impairment, hard of hearing person, or, and finally, drum roll, deaf person. What the hell is that?
Well, I mean, it's all topsy-turvy. It's like you can't say coloured people, but you can say people of colour. What's the difference? They mean the same thing. The whole world has just gone mad. But as I say, it's not just an eye-rolling moment. You have to ask yourself what the ultimate aim of all of this is. And it's not helpful for our cause in the United Kingdom. Yeah,
I wonder who actually gets together these kind of booklets, these 92-page reports. I'd love to meet them. Actually, I'd love nothing less than to meet them, come to think of it. But, yeah, this is about control. It's about... as you say, undermining the confidence of the people and is absolutely meaningless. But what they want you to do, Ben, they want you to laugh at this, roll your eyes and laugh, and of course that's your first instinct. But whilst I think it's healthy to laugh at this absolute claptrap, we should also remember this is pernicious. It is a scourge. Yeah. It is an attack on British culture. Yeah. Got to take
we
it
mustn't
seriously.
allow it to pass. The eye roll is unfortunately the beginning of allowing this thing to establish itself. The eye roll must be followed by a rejection. This is not inclusive. This is not helpful. It hinders communication and it undermines the United Kingdom. And it should be pushed back on. And the government should get behind pushing back on it. Oxfam should be have its charitable status questioned if that's what it's wasting its money on.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you very much for your time, Ben. Great to talk to you as always. Ben Habib there, former Brexit Party MEP.